So for the final project, the project itself meets quite a few of our learning outcomes, and these are things that you should be able to do at this point in the semester. And what you are going to be doing is creating a project that has at least two C# files in it. You need a class file, and then you need a program file that uses the class that you created. The topic that you select for the class is totally up to you. You could do inventory, you could do fishing, you could do something on music. I mean, it's an infinite number of possibilities. If you would like to remake one of your games from earlier in the semester, you can do that too. Okay, so it's totally up to you. I do have a couple of examples that meet the project requirements that we're going to be looking at in a minute. I have videos. I actually remade my reindeer battling game. And so I made a video on how I did that. And I've got a link out to the code so you can take a look at the code, but I do not want you guys to copy the code because this needs to be your work and not my work. Okay. I also created a brand new class that met the minimal requirements of the assignment. And so I made a video on that process as well. And then I have a link out to the example so you can take a look at the code. And what's interesting is that there's completely different design considerations in each one of these. Okay, and so as you are creating your project, you do need to be thinking about uh, the decision making that you're doing and why you are opting for certain design decisions. Okay. And so what I've got here are the project requirements. These are the minimal requirements, and you can certainly do more. Okay, but just don't do less because this is what you're going to be graded on. So first requirement is that you have a general purpose class with at least 5 public properties. You also need a default constructor, a parameterized constructor, and at least one additional method. So we can take a look at these examples that I put out on GitHub for you. And so you can see I have a program class, and then I have a race game class here. And I have more than 5. Okay? 5 was the minimum. But I did include the default constructor, the parameterized constructor, and as you can see, I have a lot more methods in this one. Over here, this was the new project that I created to meet the requirements of our final project. And I have a membership class and a program class. So the membership class is kind of the minimum. I do have more than 5 properties, okay? But as far as the methods go, I did the constructor, the parameterized constructor, and the third method that I created was a print method. Okay? That meets the requirements. Okay, so 2 different examples, and the requirements are met in kind of completely different ways. So that first requirement is the class with those minimum number of methods and constructors. Second requirement is the class has to be in its own file. So you will notice that in both of these, I have 2 files. So what I don't want is for you to take your class, okay, and stick it, on top of the program class. That is not putting it in 2 separate files. Okay, so you got to make sure you've got these in separate files. because that is worth points. And then once you have your class, you're going to create a program that uses it. Okay. And in doing this, you are going to have to make some decisions. All of the data that you input has to be validated. Okay. And so are you going to have the class validate the data, or are you going to do that in your main program? Okay. And whatever you decide, you have to explain why. Okay. In your showcase, you will explain why you made these design decisions. Okay. And you can see I have two completely different classes. This race game class, all of the validation, all of the methods that change the class data, they are all in the class. I did that on purpose so that anybody could use this class and create a game. Okay. And they could create a game with very little code. Okay. So I did that on purpose. That was a design consideration that I made. Uh, Over in this one, so this is completely opposite. I went bare bones on the class because I wanted a more generic class. I wanted people to be able to generate a new class from this one. And that is called inheritance. And that is something that we will be doing in the 195 class. Okay, so I went very simple, uh, thinking that it would be more flexible that way. And also in the future, if someone wanted to use this and kind of expand on it through inheritance, they could. That means that a lot of the code, in fact, all of the code for validation, all of the code for adding data to my class, I actually put in the main program. So the main program is lengthy. Okay, so uh, if you take a look at this main program, you will notice that I have a static method to add members. I have a static method to change members. I have one for deleting. I have one for finding members. I've got my menu method. And then I also created some validation methods. Just because I'm validating data over and over and over again, it was easier to stick those into methods than to put all of that validation code up in my main logic. And so let me see where those are used. So here you can see in the change and also in the add, um, I actually read from the console and send it directly to the validate method. Okay? Those were design decisions that I made. Okay, so and I did that just because you can see that I've got several different sections, the add and the change, especially where I am adding multiple integers, adding multiple strings. So it just made sense to put those in methods. Okay? Did not choose to put them over, whoops, over here. Okay? And that was intentional. Okay? So those types of decisions you need to explain, and you will be explaining those in your showcase video. And if you forget to explain everything in the video, you can type them out below the video that you add to the discussion. So we've got methods that validate data that you have to choose how you're going to do that. We've got our methods that are going to process the data. You have to choose if you're going to do that in the class, or are there going to be static methods that are part of your program. Another decision you have to make is, are you going to display a processing menu, or are you going to use a loop? Okay, and so again, my two examples are completely different. Right, so here in my race game, because all of the code for the game is in the game class, I just don't have a whole lot in my main method. Um, I basically need to get the number of contestants that are racing. Okay. And then I need to know how far they are going to race. And so for validating those two pieces, I am just doing it here. Okay. And so I've got, in addition to, they get to enter, um, I do have a little validation here because I'm assuming they're not going to go farther than 100 yards, although I could change that. But you can see that I'm assuming that as far as they're going to race is between 10 and 100. So the rules are a little different, so I kept them separate here. But then you can see I'm creating the arrays here, which is another design consideration that I had to make that is explained in detail in the video that I created. But as far as whether I did a loop or a menu, made absolutely no sense to use a menu for this. So I did a loop. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense to ask if they want to continue because this is designed for the race to complete. So there really is no, do you want to continue? You know, they pick the number of people, or in this case, reindeer. They pick how far they're going to go, and then we do the race. Okay, so this is why I chose the loop that I did. Over here, completely different situation because I do display a menu. And the menu lets them add members, change members, delete members, okay? And I believe that's pretty much it. So, all of your basic CRUD functionality, create, update, delete. Also, we can print, okay? So that would also be in the menu, but you can see what the options are here. So this made total sense to display a menu because I'm giving them all of the functionality to utilize all those features. Okay? So you guys will have to make those decisions in your own programs. Okay? And so making those decisions, incorporating all of these features is worth points, and you will be explaining that decision making in your showcase. Okay? And then finally, the last requirement here is your program should run without errors. Right? And that's also worth points. And if you scroll down, you should notice a rubric that I will be using to grade. So once you submit the project, this is how I will be grading it. Okay. So that is the term project. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. And I hope you guys have fun with this. Of course, I think coding is fun. So I hope all of you enjoy it as well.